And hello, everybody. Hopefully, you're having a nice weekend. I have a bit of a cold, so we'll see how long this stream goes. So, yeah, I'd been kind of wanting to do this for a while, and I figure why not do it now that I have a cold? That seems the ideal time to have a lore Q&A stream. So, let's see here. We're going to be playing Thrawn's Revenge while this goes on. So, this is the final Imperial push. So the final Imperial push is kind of an interesting event. So what had happened was in the aftermath of Operation Shadowhand. That was where the reborn Palpatine launched waves of assault from Biss, which doesn't exist anymore, out and managed to basically beat the crap out of the New Republic. That destroyed most of the remaining Imperial Navy. So the remaining Imperial admirals either fortified their homeworld, their planets, or retreated into the deep core, and they became the deep core warlords. So they were just fighting each other. They were down to almost nothing in the deep core. Like, I think Pterodok had like 40 or 50 victory twos, but things weren't looking very good. So Dala tried to get all of the deep core warlords together, but as with everything Dala does, she completely fucked it up, and she wound up just killing everybody at the peace conference. She then launched a campaign against the New Republic and completely and utterly failed. So then she resigned and ran away, and Pelion became the leader of the Empire. So he took the Empire out and annexed the Pentastar Alignment, which is the core of what became the Imperial Remnant. But before he left the core, he found the deep core. He found the Dominion and the Megador, which are two super star destroyers. I don't think it's ever explained what they are exactly. In this game, they're represented by the Bellator, which we can talk about later. But yeah, so you had the Bellator. Oh, right. So, anyways, so Pelion had won the Arinda campaign in the Outer Rim, and they actually succeeded in retaking some territory. The idea being so that they could negotiate from a position of strength and get a good deal with the New Republic. So things were going pretty good, actually, but the Moffs came to the conclusion that the New Republic was going to was determined to destroy them no matter what. So they used the Bat phone and they called Dala, and they're like, "Look, Dala, here's what we need. We need you to launch your own war from the deep core, and you're going to start a full-out war with the New Republic. And this is going to work, guys. This is totally going to work this time." It didn't work. Yeah, so Dala showed up here, and she gathered together what was left of the deep core warlords. Actually, I'm surprised how big a fleet they give you. I'm debating actually launching an assault on Quaid or however you pronounce it, just because they gave you quite a few troops here. A much bigger navy than I would have thought. So that all happened, and in typical Dala fashion, she succeeded in losing the very first battle, in which her entire task force got destroyed, and Pelion was once again left holding the bag. So Pelion was left holding the bag, and he was actually winning on his front, but as Dala GTFO'd again, he was just like completely fucked. So we're going to see if we can do any better. So the question is, where do we launch our first counteroffensive? Now, I spent a little time just getting some of this stuff set up because I didn't want to make you guys sit through this. Why did the Trade Federation blockade Naboo? It's very complicated. I'm going to be perfectly honest. I don't entirely understand it myself. They talk about it a lot in Darth Plagueis. Part of it was there was an ongoing conflict between the Trade Federation and the Republican government, and it kind of came to a head. Specifically, um, Palpatine did go to them, the Trade Federation, the guise of Darth Plague, in the guise of Darth Sidious, and he promised to make Newt Gunray the head of the Trade Federation if he blockaded Naboo and complied with his various orders. So I guess that's kind of the simplest reason is Palpatine promised Newt Gunray political favors in exchange for blockading Naboo. Hopefully that explains it fairly well. Have you watched the Clone Wars? I watched the OG Clone Wars. I'm just not super interested in it, so I haven't really watched it, to be honest. I did see the Clone Wars movie when it was in theaters. I'm probably I don't know if I'm the only person who saw it. I don't think very many people saw that movie, but it was meh. It was okay, I guess. It wasn't good. It wasn't horrible. Yeah. I guess I'll save the rest of my money. So I think I'll start my thing here so I can maybe shorten the front a bit. Bilbringi is one of the major shipbuilding yards in the galaxy. Why and how did Darth Plagueis lose all his power? Okay, so at the end of the right before Palpatine became Supreme Chancellor, the plan was that Darth Plagueis was going to become the Vice Chancellor, and that they were going to rule the galaxy together. And Darth Plagueis and Palpatine got drunk together, and Palpatine's like, "At long last, my master, why don't you take a nap?" So Plagueis slept for the first time in 10 years or something, or in a decade. Finally took a nap, and then Palpatine killed him in his sleep. Specifically, Darth Plagueis had gotten a large portion of his face blown off and had to breathe with a respirator, and Palpatine shorted out the respirator using Force lightning. See, it's kind of like poetry, they rhyme, as George Lucas would say. The idea behind Darth Plagueis and Palpatine was, so Darth Plagueis could keep people from dying indefinitely using the Force. The funny thing about Darth Plagueis, and one of the many ironies of his story, is the people that he cared about, that he prevented from dying, were his test subjects. They were like the people he was performing horrific experiments on, because they're the only people he cared about. But the idea was him and Palpatine would both learn, I don't know what you want to call it, force preservation or whatever. And so they would both be immortal, and they would together rule the galaxy forever as a diarchy, was the idea. So I think just from reading the book, my interpretation is he never really considered, oh cool, I killed Han Solo. He never really considered Palpatine to be an equal to him. Like in the book, he keeps a lot of his plans from him. He pretty consistently treats him as the junior partner of their relationship. And I think that's part of other than the fact that Palpatine is just a psychopath, I think that was a big reason why they had their ultimate falling out. How could the Republic rule the galaxy for centuries without an army? They had an army for most of its existence. They had an army and a navy, the Republic fleet. They used to have a rather large navy and a rather large army. What had happened was 1,000 years before the Battle of Yavin, the new Sith Wars came to an end where Darth Bane basically tricked the Sith into nuking themselves using the thought bomb. And because because Darth Bane tricked them into doing that, um, it was thought that the Sith were completely extinct. That they were the last. That the Sith no longer existed. There was no longer a major existential threat to the Old Republic. So without a major existential threat, the idea was that having a large army and navy was expensive, and it increased the risk of the galactic government overly centralizing. The Old Republic was extremely decentralized. I think that's something people have to keep in mind, and I keep reiterating this. Contrary to like what Obi-Wan says, the Old Republic wasn't a liberal democracy. It was a very loose federation of monarchies, republics, hive worlds. There were theocracies, oligarchies, literal corporations had their own states. And they were all more or less independent. They just had some standardized things like laws, like intergalactic law, trade agreements, anti-piracy operations, stuff like that. So, like, there were absolute monarchies within the Old Republic, and no one really cared about it. There wasn't really this attempt to enforce a one-size-fits-all system on the galaxy. So I think that's one of the major reasons for why they ultimately dismantled the New Republic military. Was it mainly, sorry, the Old Republic military, was that mainly it existed solely for the purposes of fighting external threats. And once it appeared that the external threats were gone, they preferred to increase decentralization. The worst part of Rusin, though, the Rusin Reformation, was they stripped the Jedi of their fiefs. During the Dark Age of the Republic collapsed and more or less ceased to exist outside of a couple of core systems. So during this time period, you had hundreds of years of Jedi chancellors, where the Jedi more or less ruled the Republic directly. You also had Jedi lords. So, like, Jedi would be given fiefs on various planets. And Rusin dismantled that. And they reduced the political influence of the Jedi, which I disagree with. I preferred them more having a state ideal, more being the state. Yeah. Okay, so hopefully that kind of explains it. Why did the Trade Federation build droids, and why didn't the Republic respond to it faster? Okay, so this is covered in Darth Plagueis. So pirates had become a really big issue. By this point in time, the Old Republic was in steep decline. Not to a small extent because of the Sith, who were manipulating things behind the scenes. If Palpatine hadn't have launched his coup, what probably would have happened is the Old Republic would have gone through another time of troubles, and there probably would have been another reformation, and then they would have reformed and things would have improved. But that didn't wind up happening because Palpatine ended it. So anyways, because of the pirates and the various other groups, as well as the rise of corporations as being superpowers. Like, the Trade Federation controlled dozens of planets, so they had their own senator, and they were larger in terms of the space they controlled than a lot of public governments were. So because of this, they were granted their own Senate seat, and they petitioned the the Old Republic Senate to allow them to start arming their ships. So the droid control ship, as it's called, or the Lucrehulk, as its official designation, is literally a cargo ship that was retrofitted. They just stuck a bunch of turbo lasers on it and stuff like that. And that became the maybe I'll build another Tector. And so yeah, so they initially semi-militarized it. The one you see in the Phantom Menace is one of the early militarized ones. Later on, they pumped a lot more money into it, and Lucre Hulks were absurdly good capital ships. They were extremely slow, and they were basically space stations, but they had massive amounts of shields. I don't know if you want to call it hull points or whatever, but they were very, very sturdy ships. And because they were so big, they could carry, I think it was over 1,000 starfighters. I think it was something like 1,200 starfighters a Lucre Hulk could take. So that was good. Oh, fuck. Oh, they gave Akbar the, oh shit, the Guardian in this? Okay, I gotta have to get out of here. I'm not able to fight the Guardian. It's too big. That is the Lusankia. I thought Wedge piloted the Guardian. I'm gonna have to get out of here. The only thing that's really a match for a Superstar Destroyer is another Superstar Destroyer. Yes, so the droids were to be used to crew the Trade Federation's ships and to protect their various properties. Their various, yeah. Let's see here. Okay, my tech door's ready. And I'm going to take Bilbringi. If I remember, I think Bilbringi has extremely heavy defenses. I don't do land battles because they kind of suck in this. Also, I'm not sure how much of a population the what's it called again? The Trade Federation had. So they might have been reliant on droids to make up for that. Wow, that took a lot of stuff, but Bilbringi is one of the most important worlds in the galaxy, so whatever the sacrifices were, it's worth it. Okay, so we have a New Republic task force that's attacking me at Sauce Beacon. I have a... Ooh. Okay, here we go. We have the Battle of Coruscant. This is going to be interesting. Please don't let a raiding fleet come in. Please don't let a raiding fleet come in. Okay, good. There's no raiding fleet. It actually looks like they don't have that much defending Coruscant. So I guess I'm going to drop the Megador in. I'm going to drop Pelion in. And that one. And then some escort carriers. And some of these. How did 200k clones defeat 4 plus quadrillion droids? I actually did a video about that. It's in this Sci-Fi Pulsi list, where I attempt to come up with some explanations for how it was, how they were able to do it. Basically, I came to the conclusion that the Old Republic, it's not 200,000 clones, it's 200,000 units. So I would imagine it's maybe like 20 million clones or something like that. Also, I think the vast majority of the Republic's forces were conscripts or volunteer armies. I think they had a huge volunteer army in addition to their, whatever you want to call them, other forces. Because the Republic has trillions of citizens, and I'm sure a lot of them would be willing to fight for the Republic to defend democracy. So that's my theory. Also, I think the Old Republic won in space a lot, because I think they controlled most of the major capital shipyards. Like, they controlled Kuwait, Karelia. I forget if Fondor was controlled by them. I think Bilbringi was. and the CIS just wasn't able to mass produce capital ships as much. I also imagine there's like a lot of logistical problems with having so many droids because you have to like charge them, you need replacement parts. I think they caught a lot of corners on them, much as with the Empire and their TIE fighter program. Have you ever heard or done the Star Wars questionnaire? No, I have not done that. Do you think the last trilogy ruined the series? Yes, I've talked about that at great length. So this is kind of interesting. So this is the Bellator class Super Star Destroyer. So this was kind of the other version of the This was kind of the other branch that the Executor took. So this is designed to be like, it's based on a pocket battleship or a fast battleship. So it has significantly less weapons, but it's much more maneuverable and much faster. Also, the weapon placement is much, much better than the Executor's is. The Executor has terrible weapon placement. Who would win, Palpatine versus Darth Revan? That's an interesting question. I'm going to have to go with Palpatine. I tend to be of the opinion that Palpatine could beat anyone in a one-on-one battle. I don't think there's... I think he might even be able to beat Bitchute. But Vitiate's abilities are very hard to pin down. The reason why Palpatine, I think, can beat just about anyone... He is extremely powerful in the Force, but he's also just so learned. He spent so much time studying both Jedi and Sith lore, and battle tactics, and lightsaber forms, and all that kind of stuff. Why didn't the First Order destroy Coruscant? Because the new movies make no sense. I think that's a good way of summarizing. The new movies are garbage. Nothing about them makes any kind of sense, so... Okay, so we took Coruscant, and let's bring in a ground force. I might actually fight this one. Let's see here. Oh shit, okay, so there's a huge New Republic battle group at Toss Beacon. So maybe what I'll do is destroy what I can and then jump out. Oh, okay. So deploy the Venators, the Imperial 2s. So I've kind of changed my mind on the Imperial 2. I actually think the Imperial 2 is a pretty good ship. A lot of people like to make fun of it because it has the overexposed bridge, and it has not the best gun layout, and it doesn't have any anti-fighter cannons. But when you want something that can just dish out a lot of firepower really fast, it's very hard to beat the Imperial 2. The Imperial 2 is an absolute killing machine. So I think it's actually a pretty good ship. The main issue is they didn't deploy them with very good fighters. TIE fighters are pretty bad, let's be honest. So that is a Nebula-class Star Destroyer. So that was one of the few Star Destroyer models that was built explicitly by the New Republic. So it was built using a combination of Mon Calamari and Imperial technology. And it was just really good. It has very good gun placement. The bridge is much less exposed. It has Mon Calamari shields. And most importantly, it has New Republic starfighters. So it has like E-wings and K-wings. And let me see if we can look at the K-wings. The K-wings are really cool. Well, I don't know. They kind of look like ungodly abominations. You can't really see them, but they're based on an A10 Warthog. So they very much look like an A10 Warthog. Yeah, like the Imperial 2s are doing pretty good here. Another big issue with them is they don't have any rear-facing gun. I guess they have maybe like one rear-facing gun. Now, the reason why they're shaped the way they are is because all their guns can fire forward at once. Because of that's kind of the purpose of them being a flying dagger type thing. Oh, let's see. What's your favorite government system? I'd say either the Old Republic or the Fell Empire. I like both of them for different reasons. Um, I haven't read the new Jedi Order, so I don't know much about the Galactic Federation of Free Alliances. I'm very interested in reading about it. Well, Jedi feudalism is also good. But apparently, the Galactic Federation of Free Alliances was formed during the Yuzan Vong War because of how badly the New Republic performed. It's not like the New Republic didn't try, it's just they didn't have a very large. They had demobilized a lot of their military in the aftermath of the Galactic Civil War. Because the peace treaty had been signed, and they weren't really expecting this giant stuff to come in. I'm not gonna watch them. I refuse to watch The Mandalorian. I refuse to watch anything on Disney Plus. Disney Plus is, I don't know. I'm done with Disney in the reboot, unless something like really really bad comes out, or something like really really good. I'll watch it, like that interests me. But I kind of am like happy that Rise of Skywalker is behind us, so I don't have to worry about it anymore. Okay, so let's try. I'll try a land battle. Oh, Luke Skywalker's okay. Luke Skywalker's gonna kill like my entire army by himself. Hero units are kind of OP in this. I think the name Coruscant was introduced in the Thrawn trilogy. Um, in the audiobook, it's called Coruscant, which is kind of interesting. Oh, that's interesting. Let's see here. Bring in some TIE crawlers, some extra stormtroopers. No, I don't want to. I just don't want to keep like getting involved with it. So I'm just not watching The Mandalorian. I'm putting my foot down on it. Because like it's irritating me because people are like going, "Oh, well Argent, the reboot's not that bad. There's the Mandalorian's really good, so you should like," and people are going to start revising it and saying like the reboot trilogy isn't that bad because the Mandalorian's good. And I just like am not really interested in going through that. Maybe that's unfair of me. It probably is unfair of me, but no, I refuse. I'm not. You know what? It's like former President George W. Bush said: "Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, we can't get fooled again. We can't get fooled again." So. Like, the amount of shit that Disney retconned was... Like, they retconned Darth Bane. Like, Darth Bane has basically been retconned. I think he, like, showed up briefly in something. But yeah, they retconned Darth Bane. They retconned Vitiate. I don't think Vitiate exists anymore in the new canon. What else is there? They like retconned everything they could. Let's see. Bring in some AT-ATs. Yeah, I'm losing most of my assault force, but I'm at least killing a lot of the New Republic soldiers. No, if I was going to watch it, I would obtain it, as I like to say. Okay, no, Darth Bane showed up, but he didn't do anything. He was just like, I'm Darth Bane. And that was it. It's like how they brought Pillion back just to die. Like he just showed up and immediately got killed. In the Star Wars Rebels. No, he showed up and he's like, I'm Darth Bane. Darth Zana's gone. Like Zana was removed. Now she's just called Darth Bane's apprentice or whatever. Whatever the fuck that means. Wow, the New Republic had a lot of... Well, it's their capital, so it makes sense how heavily defended this is. I don't know, for whatever reason, the Clone Wars don't really interest me very much. As far as, like Star Wars time periods. They don't really interest me. Like, the Sith Empire period interests me, and, like... the Imperial Civil War period really interests me, probably the most. But the Clone Wars period doesn't really interest me because the war is a foregone conclusion. So, I'm not gonna watch the Obi-Wan series. I don't know. I probably won't even watch Picard. Because that just looks... I don't even know anything about it. I just kind of don't care about Star Trek anymore. Star Trek Discovery just looked like the worst thing ever. Like, I wasn't going to watch it regardless, but the thing that really pissed me off was all the people who were like, we have the first black captain. It's that... whatever that bitch's name is. She's the first black captain ever. It's like... It's such a step forward for the series. I'm like, well, what about Benjamin Sisko? Benjamin Sisko was a badass. Does he just not count now? Is he just getting, like, his privilege checked or something like that? So I kind of feel like that's what happened with the Star Trek reboot. Or no, not the Star Trek reboot, but... where'd Luke go? Yes, I don't really have anything else, so I'll call it a bombing run here, maybe. Yeah, Sisko was a massive Chad. He was just such a, like, badass. He rendered a planet inoperable. Unlivable for like 60 years because he got pissed off. Because the Maquis were using biogenic weapons against the Cardassian homeworld. And he was like, this is going to destroy relations. You guys can't just do that. Even if I'm kind of sympathetic to your cause, you can't just use like biogenic weapons against civilians. And they were like, fuck off, Sisko. So Sisko... detonated a cobalt device in like the atmosphere of one of the Maquis colonies, and he's like, "This is going to render this planet unlivable for the next 50 years," and he was going to go and blow up all the Maquis colonies that way, but he eventually stopped. But yeah, Sisko was awesome. Yeah, Proxy. Yeah, Worf was like, dude, you're getting a little hardcore here. And he's like, dude, I haven't even begun to get hardcore. You think this is hardcore? I'm gonna go like full, just out. So yeah, I like Cisco a lot. There's a lot. Deep Space Nine is really underappreciated. Cisco was good. Odo wasn't bad. The guy who plays Dukat is really good. Also, Wayoon. Wayoon is like he should be on fanfiction.net. He should be like the picture for affably evil because he was just so much fun, and he you could tell he was just so happy being a bad guy. Um, yeah, Wayoon was really good. Oh yeah, Picard. All right, yeah, Cisco punched out Q. Cisco just beat the like just punched him because Q was like trying to fuck with him in one episode, and he just like decked him, and he's like Picard never punched me, and he's like I'm not Picard. I love Cisco. It's too bad they yeah. I mean, I guess he's not canon anymore, but we have the first black guy. The Cardassians were funny. I think they were supposed to be like yeah, they were a Nazi Germany analog. Oh yeah, the pro gamer moved to get the Romulans to join the war. Okay, so Cisco and Garrick, who's a former Cardassian intelligence agent, came up with this like 4D chess plan. So they were fighting the Dominion, so they got a Cardassian senator to come to Deep Space Nine, and they gave him a holo recording that showed a Dominion conference of them planning to invade Romulus, and they were able to figure out that the senator figured out that the core was like a doctored fake, and he was going to go back and tell Cardassia that the Federation was trying to get them to join a war. But Garrick had planted a bomb on his shuttle, so the shuttle blew up as it was leaving Deep Space Nine. And it was so they said any inconsistencies or issues with the thing will with the what is it called again? The data rod will be blamed on the explosion. And then we get this awesome scene of Cisco staring at the camera, saying, "Oh no!" And then they go, and the Romulans will believe that Dominion ordered the assassination because that's exactly what they would do in the same situation. And then we get Cisco staring at the camera, and he goes, "You know what the funniest part about it is? I think I can live with it. The salvation of billions of people is a small price to pay for a guilty conscience." And then he just kind of keeps repeating "I can live with it" to himself, and you can just tell he like, oh, that's an awesome episode. That was in the Pale Moonlight. I wonder if that was a reference to Tim Burton's Batman. Because like, have you ever danced with the devil in the Pale Moonlight? So that was cool. There's a bunch of good episodes. There's that episode where Dukat gives like the Edgelord speech about how he should have killed all the Bajorans and like how they weren't grateful for being colonized by them. He's like, I should have killed every last. I should have killed every last Bajoran. I should have made a mountain of skulls, the likes of which the universe had never seen. And then, like, he just starts yelling about it. And it kind of reminds me of, like, he's kind of an edgelord, like, ranting about European colonialism. Dukat's awesome. Dukat's such a good villain. He's a really good villain. Wayoon's a good villain. Was that the... I think that was the only Star Trek series to have consistent, like, villains. I can't think of another one where they had villains who showed up in, like, multiple episodes like that before. Or there probably were, and I'm just probably not remembering them. But, yeah, that was a good series. Deep Space Nine just kind of suffered from weird pacing. The sets were kind of odd. It was just a very weirdly shot show, which I think is probably why it never really took off as much. But I do give it a lot of credit for having like ongoing storylines in a way that the other Star Wars series didn't have. So an interesting thing about Dooku is Dooku was an extreme human centrist. He actually wanted to go further than Palpatine ultimately did with how the galaxy would be set up after the end of the Clone Wars. He was hoping that all alien species would just be reduced to slavery or exterminated. Um, yeah, so he was an extreme human centrist. Like, more so than most of the core and more so than a lot of the ideologues who emerged during the, at least the early Imperial period. Dooku's like plan was he was going to blame everything that happened on General Grievous. One second. And he was just going to be a scapegoat. Um, and General Grievous is a pretty good scapegoat because he's a scary ass dude. So I don't think it was really a surprise to anyone. I don't think it would surprise anyone if he was presented as like being the Antichrist or something. Why didn't the Empire keep the droids? That's a good question. I actually don't know. I don't think they were very efficient. Okay, there we go. So we've won that. Luke Skywalker is now officially out of the loop. So let's move on and attack Kuwait next. So this campaign's going a lot better than I thought it would. Maybe I should build another. I'll build another Imperial 2 there. Why were 80% of the actors in Star Wars British? I they are. I didn't think 80% of them were British. If you're referring to like the Imperials, I think it's British actors just get paid a lot less because acting in Britain is very heavily unionized. So I think in general actors just are a lot cheaper there. Plus, Imperials are supposed to have a posh British accent as to kind of show it. Like generally speaking, in the books and the movies, the core world accent or like the Coruscanti accent is like a posh British accent, and the Outer Rim accent is a like a hick accent, like in the Thrawn in the book Thrawn, in the audiobook Eli Vanto, who's from Wild Space, they give him like a really unpolished Southern accent, and he's widely mocked for having it. Wow, they left Kuwait completely undefended. I think that might be their last. Oh no, they should still have Mon Calamari, right? Well, Alderaan's a core world, so it makes sense that she would have a British accent. That's just kind of what Hollywood does. To show someone as being sophisticated, they just give them a British accent. So, yeah. Nothing kind of weird about that aspect of it. I'll just build some more fortifications, I guess, on these worlds. Do you think George Lucas would have been better off as a writer than a filmmaker? No, George Lucas is not a good writer. Um, that is not his forte. He's not very good at it. Especially in the prequels, his dialogue is like super cringe. Like super cringe. Oh boy, this is gonna be brutal. Wait a minute, where is the has he not deployed the Guardian yet? I guess he hasn't deployed the Guardian yet. Because Akbar does have a superstar destroyer here, so he should be bringing it in at some point. So that's an E-Wing there. That's what replaced the X-Wing. Actually, the X-Wing replaced the X-Wing because they just found all the replacement ships weren't as good as the X-Wing. So they found it easier to just keep... he does keep upgrading them. The New Republic just kept upgrading them. No, the movies are good. Like, I like the movies. I've seen the movies a bunch of times. Like, I've probably seen Empire Strikes Back maybe like 4 or 5 times. I've probably seen the original trilogy like all the way through 4 or 5 times. I've seen Attack of the Clones the most. I've probably seen it like 10 times. Phantom Menace maybe like 4. Revenge of the Sith a similar amount. I've seen the movies a lot of times, so I like them a lot. Oh yeah, that's an endurance. Oh no, that's a nebula, not an endurance. Oh, get that out of the way. Okay, so it looks like we're doing pretty well in this defensive battle. I'll move these guys up to shred their fighters. Yeah, the New Republic used a lot of Imperial 2 Star Destroyers. Attack of the Clones is a lot of fun. Attack of the Clones is one of the most fun movies ever made. It's kind of like over the top and goofy at points, but in terms of just a movie like that has a lot of sheer entertainment value, it's really hard to beat Attack of the Clones. Like, it's a film I've watched a bunch of times, and it's lots of good fun. I don't know, what do you mean by racism? Human centrism is very common, but xenophobia in general is. Like the Duskin League or the Yavitha during the Black Fleet Crisis exterminated all other species within their space. Extreme xenophobia is very, very common among all kinds of different species. Okay, so I might lose one Imperial 2 here. The show I've debated watching is The Witcher, but I'm really pissed off by the casting. Like, I can't get past the casting they did in The Witcher, so I don't want to watch it solely based on that. Henry Cavill is a good choice for Geralt. I think he does a good job, but most of the casting is just complete and utter garbage. Like, oh, Triss Marigold, she's black now, because we have to do that. Yennefer is now half Indian. It's funny because Ciri, they were going to make a minority, but there was an outcry, and they were like, when we meant minority, we meant Polish. Something like that. Why are some people more powerful in the Force than others? Okay, so my understanding of midichlorians is I get why George Lucas did what he did. I think people are unfair because I've tried to write stuff like that, like fantasy where some people have powers. It's really hard to explain what. Oh, shit. Fuck me. Yeah, I'm gonna lose this one. Yep. I'm dead. There's nothing I can do against the Guardian. Hopefully I can maybe take out either the Endurance or the Nebula. But yeah, I'm completely screwed here. Oh, is Carrie Fisher English? I actually I didn't know that. I'm happy Alec Guinness is in it. Alec Guinness is awesome. Alec Guinness should have been in every movie, like, ever. I think my favorite role of him might be when he played Hitler. His performance as Hitler was really good. I think he also was Nicholas II in one of them. I think he was... I forget if he was also Charles I. Or Charles... Whatever the Charles was who got his head cut off in Cromwell. But no, I love Alec Guinness. Actually, the story behind Alec Guinness is he was going to become an Anglican priest, but he changed his mind and converted to Catholicism. So, yeah. As with a lot of people, there's random rumors that he was gay. I don't think there's, like, any actual evidence for that, but that's, like, something they started. I know something that that's something that irritates me. Sorry, we're getting off topic with random historical figures. Is if they were celibate, it's assumed that they were gay. I'm pretty sure it was. Yeah, starring Alec Guinness. Yeah, the movie's Hitler: The Last 10 Days, starring Alec Guinness. There's a Blu-ray of it out. Charles the First, yeah. He actually portrays Hitler very sympathetically, or at least somewhat sympathetically in it. But it's Alec Guinness, so like he just kind of does that by. Oh, Peter Cushing. Yeah, Peter Cushing was a Chad. He liked appearing in, like, sci-fi movies, from my understanding. He preferred to appear in, like, sci-fi movies and, like, horror movies than to appear in other movies. Like, appear in serious movies. That was a point of contention between him. I think it was him and Alec Guinness were very close friends. I like to call Christopher Lee the Supreme Gentleman. Christopher Lee was such a great dude. I actually was sad when he died. He lived a very long, productive life, though. But he was a really great guy. The story of how he came to be, what was it again? To be Saruman was really funny. Because, like, Peter Jackson describes it as like he met him at a like cathedral or something, And when they were at the like, and he was like standing in the shadows, and he like seemed to appear out of nowhere, and he's like, "I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan. I read the books every year. I really want to play Gandalf." And like, um, P- Peter Jackson was trying to figure out how to tell him that that was a really bad idea. Um, can you imagine how bad Christopher Lee as Gandalf would have been? Like, I can't even imagine how much of a mess that would have been. It would have, like, I kind of wish they had have done it though, just because it would have been like, it would have been epic, like just how much of a mess it is. But yeah, Christopher Lee was kind of sad that he was relegated to being a villain. Also, why was Christopher Lee in Kingdom Hearts? That's what I want to know. I mean, I think that's like the big question that needs an answer. Why was Christopher Lee in Kingdom Hearts? Um, if you have an answer to that question, post it in, I don't know, somewhere. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm gonna have to move to try to take down the Guardian. Fall back, guys. Fall back. We aren't gonna be able to hold it. Not against something that size. Do I need more escort? So, like, what happened with Red Letter Media in the reboot? Because I've seen people say different things. I've seen some people say they shat on them, and I've seen some people say that they liked the reboot movies, and I've seen some people say they initially liked the reboot but changed their mind about them. Um, so I really have no idea like what their actual opinion was on them. If someone wants to maybe post that in the comments, I'd be really interested to know. Because, like I said, I've seen both of them. Actually, no, I need this for build anti-vehicle turrets. I always hate when I get stuck on planetary battles and I just happen to not have any money to build turrets. The prequel hate, I think, is almost like a pathology at this point because people just are so like intense about it. Like I don't get why the prequels are supposed to be so bad. I know I found their reboot of the review of Rise of Skywalker to not be very good, but that might just be me. I didn't think it was that good a review. I felt they were like they were they didn't want to say it sucked, but they kind of had to just because everyone was saying that. Okay, so I might lose this one solely because I don't have any enough money to build turrets. A lot of their complaints about the prequels I thought were unfair. Like their complaint that they used like lightsabers too much, and like that the like one of his complaints was like that the duel between Anakin and Obi-Wan sucked because it was too over the top, and that just seemed like kind of a lame explanation. Do you think they'll get a fourth trilogy? Um, Maybe not for a while. I'm sure Disney wanted to do it, but with the debt with Solo flopping and Rise of Skywalker not doing very well, we might get spared another trilogy for the moment, at least. No, they aren't going to do a Darth Bane trilogy. To quote the angry video game nerd, the problem with the Darth Bane trilogy is it would be kind of good, and apparently that's not what they're going for. There's like a Darth like Path of Destruction, the first Darth Bane novel, would actually fit really well as a movie. The pacing would be like good, and it would just work in general. But they aren't going to do a Darth Bane movie. They just aren't. Ray might be the biggest Mary Sue I've ever seen. Like it's hard for me to think of a bigger Mary Sue than Ray. Like I actually am kind of I've struggled trying to figure out who's bigger, and I can't come up with one. Oh no, there's two who I think might be bigger. I think Alucard is a bigger Mary Sue from Hellsing, and I also think Anita Blake from Anita Blake Vampire Hunter is a bigger Mary Sue. Those are the only two I can think of who are as big Mary Sues as Ray. I think I'm going to lose this battle, actually. Like I said, I lost pretty much solely because I just happened to not have any money to build turrets with. Or else I would have won this. But I guess them's the breaks. If I could make a Star Wars movie, probably Darth Bane. Either Darth Bane or the rise of or Palpatine's or Darth Plagueis. I think those would both be really good. Yeah, Mary Sue comes from a Star Trek fanfic. Have I played or read any visual novels? Um, the main visual novel I've read is Tsukihime, and I did all the paths in that. My issue with visual novels is I just find they're too long. Like I find they often take like more time to get through than actual visual novels, and they just have a lot of filler and excessive like description. I don't hate them. That and just most of them aren't translated into English. Like I've tried to go through Fate Stay Night multiple times because I like Arturia and I like Rin a lot, but it's just takes so long to get anywhere. I don't know. Maybe that's an unfair criticism of it, but that's just kind of the way I feel. No, George Lucas is like really upset. Okay, like I was talking to Serp about this. So one of the conditions for him selling it was that he would maintain a lot of creative control over it. But that was just Disney fucking with him. They had no intention of ever allowing that. Also for visual novels, I would prefer if like they were narrated. Um so I would like that. Like if there was visual novels that were narrated, so I guess they wouldn't even be visual novels, they'd just be audiobooks with something on screen. I would actually like that. I wish there was more people who did LPs of visual novels. Cuz that would be an LP series I would actually watch. Cuz I like to listen to stuff when I was doing something else. I like to listen to like audiobooks when I'm doing something else. So. Wow, those V-Wings are like invincible. Like I'm not even hitting it. I think Finn got downgraded because the Chinese didn't like him. Because the Chinese are not known for being racially tolerant. So I think that was the main reason that Finn got physically removed from the movies. Because of how bad, how much the Chinese audiences hated Finn. To be like fair though, Finn is more likable than most of the cast. I think Finn's more likable than Rey. I think he's more likable than Leia. He's more likable than Poe. Like he's bad, but he's not what killed it. I'll say that for Finn. Once again, maybe I'm being overly generous, but Finn doesn't offend me in the way like Rey does. I still... Oh, no, I do know. I was going to say, like, why... I'm like... like, how did Rey beat Kylo Ren? When the actor who plays Kylo Ren is, like, 6 feet tall, is 6'3", and, like, fairly muscular. So, you may have noticed, seen him come on a couple times. So, my good friend Terrellian has this thing he does, where anytime I ask a question like that, he just abrasively yells girl power. Like, he just goes, no, Arjun, you don't get it. Girl power. But how was Rey able to... No, you don't hear me. Girl power. Disney's such shit. I don't know. Disney needs to be physically removed from everything. Wow, this is... Come on, Turbo Laser Tower. This is what you're for. Fire. Snooki might have been okay, but, like, they retconned who he is multiple times. So, like, we really have no idea who the fuck Snooki is. Like, if he was Darth Plagueis, that probably would have been fine. Or, I don't know, nothing would be fine about these movies, but that would at least be, like, significantly less bad than what we got. But, like, Rian Johnson explicitly stated, like, that he wasn't going to make him Darth Plagueis to fuck with the fans. So... Rian Johnson is such a shitty fucking person. Like, ugh. I don't know, maybe his parents love him. Although, I can't even see, like, Rian Johnson's parents love him. How would that, like, you feel if you gave birth to Rian Johnson? That would be, like... I don't know what I'd do if I was... I might have to, like, throw myself into the Sarlacc pit if Rian Johnson was my son. So, I'm not sure if I'm winning. Oh, I won this. Sweet. That's amazing. Okay, so that was fairly close. I won and I took out a lot of shit. Anyways, I think that's good enough for this stream. My voice is getting kind of sore because, like I said, I have a bit of a cold. So I think I'm going to end it here. And I'll talk to you guys real soon.